Action.
Real life street stars. Everybody start clapping. We have Tiara Cooper in the building. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing well.
You've done a lot of things. Working with the NAACP, working with the different associations in Dallas. You've really built a name for yourself, being against the death penalty, things of that nature. But we're here to discuss all those things, but you have a story to tell. And we feel like it would speak to a lot of people that tune into our channel. So we don't want to hold you. We just want to kind of you to give a little bit about yourself and, give us tell us your story.
Yeah, my name is Tiara Cooper. I'm born and raised in Dallas, Texas.
What part?
South Dallas.
South Dallas.
South Dallas. I have two daughters, one Milan and Zai. Oh, they're my heartbeat, my pride and joy. A little bit more about me is like around the age of 16, my mom died. She died from a long battle of HIV/AIDS. And I bring it up because it's symbolic in my story in the sense of like being a straight A student, doing really well up until around the time I got like 18, 19. I found myself struggling to take care of my daughter, Zai, who at the time, she had heart problems. She actually just had an open heart surgery 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I couldn't maintain a job simply because we're in and out of the hospital. I'm a young mom. And I remember some friends in the community was like, hey, this is a way for you to get some quick money. Yeah, so I was like borderline atheist. I didn't really believe in anything, just survival mode. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And from there, I just started to make some really harmful decisions. Like I said, I got incarcerated, got locked up, and the charges were reduced. And while I was inside, I also just like built a bond, a relationship with Christ. And I was like, okay, I'm reading this scripture. That's the only one I knew. And it just was like, don't worry about what you eat or what you drink. But in all your ways, you submit to God. And I just remember reading like, don't worry, seek the kingdom first and all of its righteousness, and these things will be added to you. Because I was really trying to like make things add up for myself. And I recognized that wasn't the way that I should be going. So I bumped my head real hard, but it led me to some spaces that I needed to go to internally. And it was probably the first time in my life where I had slowed down, because I was going head first, my sister was going head first, and my brother. And we were just all starting to live a lifestyle that we weren't raised. I was raised with principles and things. Like, even though I'm from the hood, I was raised by parents with principles.
So where do you think that turn was made, where you feel like, okay, I'm doing right, but now I had to switch it up to survive?
Yeah, well, I went to James Madison High School. If you're familiar with South Dallas, the area, poverty, survival mode, right. That's normal. Right. That's normal from where I'm from. And I feel like there was just a breaking point. A breaking point, a moment of like really leaning into that survival and fighting all the time. And now you got a baby daddy, like just counter of what I was kind of raised up on. But again, my mama was that foundation. She was the matriarch of my family. And she was the one who kind of instilled a lot of those principles within me and my siblings. And you kind of just start losing sight of the things you've learned while you was growing up. Now I'm just living for each day. Now I'm just living for each day. And I would say I came home maybe 2-3 weeks. I'm the type that's gonna organize. I feel like I was an organizer even while I was in jail, because I was creating plans. Like, I know what I'm gonna do next. I'm 19 years old. I still have my future ahead of me. I am like really critical of myself, and I knew what I needed to do. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I got home, I got a knock on the door, and this time it was another officer. And I'm like, what's going on? I already, went to jail, working my case out. I'm out on bond. I haven't missed court, nothing. And this time the officer is picking me up on aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. I knew nothing about aggravated assault with a deadly weapon beyond like Law and Order, right. Things you see on TV. And I'm getting arrested, and I'm like, I'm innocent. I don't know what you're talking about. of course you're innocent. You just got out of jail. This is your alias. Like, basically they're saying this name, Tiara Cooper, is spelled a little differently, but this your alias. This is who you are. And you've been stabbing people. You've been running up on people. This is who you are. And that in particular was one of the most, what would I say, trying times in my life. Because when I was in the back of that specific cop car, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know why I was there. Also, this ain't no state jail offense that, you know, you pay $250, dollars or $300 to get home. We're looking at a $75,000 bond. We're looking at no bond. It was just like really arbitrary in that sense. How I went to arraignment, I was arraigned, and I'm thinking like I can speak up for myself. I think people oftentimes see like through TV, you go to arraignment court, you get to speak your piece. No, you do not. Right. You go to arraignment, you get arraigned. They tell you your charges, that is it. You get an attorney, that is it. You go off to a case, off to a tank. So I went off to my tank and I'm like, well, I was just here 2-3 weeks ago. I'm okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm innocent. So I'm just still thinking like, this gonna be okay. I'll be home tomorrow or something. Like, we're gonna get it all cleared up. That is not what happened. A couple days go by, weeks go by. I'm still haven't heard from my court appointed, but I'm also speaking to my family. And I'm like, we don't know what's going on. I feel like my auntie or my granny or someone reached out to someone at the church. And David Furrow, shout out to David Furrow. He reached out to a community partner who I actually work with to this day, or just like, mad respect for Anton Lucky and the things that they are doing, like credible messengers and the work that they're doing. Because at that specific time, he had a bail bonds. I don't even know if he was doing community advocacy in the way that he's doing, urban specialists are doing it now. But at that specific time, he had a bail bonds right there in South Dallas. And my family went to the bail bonds and Anton was like, hey, you need to get this attorney, Larry Taylor. He gonna look out for you. He got y'all, get some coins together, but he gonna look out. He gonna handle it. And that's all I remember. Mind you, I'm making phone calls. I don't really know what the outside looking like, but I'm just calling, seeing what's going on. But I know my family is looking out for me on the outside. I sat in there for quite a while, and then
around 9 months.
Probably all together.
Yeah.
All together, but it was so broken up. That's what makes my story even more, tragic. But also, I think it's something that others may have experienced also. So I get in contact with Mr. Larry. He gets me out on a PR bond. For those that don't know, that's a personal recognizance bond. That's a bond where you basically, you make an arrangement with a judge. The judge say you don't have to pay anything. There's a promise that you're gonna come back, and that's the way I left.
So before, how many lawyers had you actually dealt with during this process? Like, how grave was the situation before Larry stepped in? How did you feel like there was anybody for you? I
feel like I didn't have nobody. The attorney that I had, y'all, it almost was like off of a TV show. He wore an ugly suit, papers falling everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not the man I want representing me in court. On top of that, he didn't believe me. He didn't believe me saying I'm innocent. He didn't believe me on any parts. Like, it's basically trying to talk about pleading.
Right. So how much time was he trying to get you to plea for?
I don't even remember anymore, but it was 5 and up.
What was the original sentence?
Aggravated assault with it, or my original sentence?
Yeah. How much time?
The crime I actually committed?
No, the one that they put on you that.
The one that they put on me was aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And that, I don't even know what that case actually carried, but I don't remember at that specific time they were saying something around like 5 years, we maybe can get you probation. You might have to serve 2. It was just like, what are we talking about for real? I knew nothing. So I'm 19. I don't know anything. Like,
how did they even come up with that though? That's kind of crazy for you. I know you were sitting there like, huh?
When I say I felt so lost, I felt crazy, I felt insane because people are asking you questions. I'm already a kid. I'm 19, you know? People are asking me questions that are over my head and I honestly don't know what's going on. And I think to make it even more personal, even from the inside. So I get inside, I'm thinking I'm already knowing how this is gonna go because I've been here before, a couple weeks before. No, this time I'm going to an aggravated tank. This time I'm sitting with people who have been accused of murders, aggravated assault, violent offenses. And when I first came in, I just remember saying like, I'm innocent. I'm talking to people. I'm innocent. I'm finna go home. I'm innocent. But after weeks and days go by, you stop advocating for yourself. After weeks and days go by, the murderer, the person that's convicted of murder become your friend. These become people that you just look out for. You stop advocating for yourself. And I think that's a critical piece of information that I don't think people know how often, especially single mothers like myself, will plead just to get out and go home, even if they're innocent.
I was just going to ask, was there ever a point where you feel like, I'm going to just tell them I did it so I can get, or, because some people I remember listening to one dude, he was like, man, I was in there so long, I start to ask myself, did I really do it? He's like, did I do something? He's like, because sometimes I get high or I get drunk. Did I really do it? Or like, then you have other people like you say yourself, like, I just want to get out of here so bad that, I'm just going to agree to it.
Yeah, there was many times when I first had that, court appointed that I did want to just come home. And like I said, we would get out on the PR button when we did get Mr. Larry Taylor on the case. I would get out, my sister would come in because it was just like a mix up altogether. When I say it was a mess, it was a mess. So even when they would clear me, they would go right back and go pick up my sister. And like almost consecutively, one of us was incarcerated and spending money to get the next one out, the next one spending money to get the other one out. And this went on for months. They finally got it to where my sister's name was clear, but I started to do like the bulk of time. I started to just go back and forth. I literally would get a new job, get back on my feet. And now there's an active warrant out because I'm not receiving communications about a court date because it is not in my birthday. It's not coming to the right location or however it went. To this day, I'm still confused on like, what were the missteps? But I do know that I was going crazy. Mm-hmm. I was losing my mind while I was in there. And like I told y'all, I didn't really have that relationship, but I was forming that relationship with God. And I couldn't understand because I was already cleaning up my act. Them 2-3 weeks I was home from the first time I actually did bump my head. I'm the type that like, look, I'm strategic in a sense. Like all I gotta do is bump my head once and that's it. And I'm gonna do something different. So to be going through this specific trial, this specific, moment in my life and have zero understanding, and I don't truly know how to advocate for myself for real. I'm questioning God. I'm questioning myself. Should I plead? I need to get back home to my daughter. Mm-hmm. Now CPS is starting to get involved because they saying I'm stabbing people. This thing went out of hand. I started to go through all types of adversity for something I did not do.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever feel like God maybe had more to show you or teach you in those moments?
Of course, now I can smile and say yes, because it was honestly that time that I was incarcerated for something I didn't do that allowed me to see the inside of the carceral system and really see how they treat people, the inhumane conditions. It really allowed me to see the difference between general population and maximum security, innocence versus guilt, especially in a county jail sentence where nobody has been, you've been accused, but you haven't been convicted of a crime. And some folks, I guess, within that specific tank have been convicted and they're ready to pull chain. And for those that don't know, pulling chain is just being ready to be transported or, commuted to your next facility to actually do your time. People oftentimes say that county time is hard time. If you speak to anyone who's been locked up, so like I'm also doing hard time for a crime I didn't commit, while also working out a case that I did commit. So I'm going through much trials. I want to plea out. I don't know what's happening. We get Mr. Larry on the case. Mr. Larry gets me home. I still don't know like what's the ins and outs. I don't know what's being worked out. We know that like it's not me, not like it's been a mistaken identity. But the guy, he never shows up to court. He never shows up to court.
So we're gonna have Mr. Larry Taylor step in on this part.
All right, so I'm gonna explain to you exactly what took place. I thought we had this conversation, but since we didn't, and for the audience to see, what actually ended up happening. So I went to go visit Miss Cooper in jail. And so I got a call from Antoine and I got a call from the pastor. And it was probably about 3 that afternoon. So everything was kind of winding down for the day. But they were adamant that I go and see this woman. And so I was like, all right, man, I got you. I'm going down there. And so I go down there and I go see her. And I said, hey, you know, what happened? And she's just bust out crying. And she was like, I done had attorneys and I'm still here. You're not going to be able to do anything to get me out. So, and just listening to her story, I was just like, this not right. And so I went and called the prosecutor. And I told the prosecutor, I probably shouldn't have said this, but I told the prosecutor, I said, man, look, show your victim a picture of my client. Because she had convinced me it wasn't her. Show me a picture, show my client to you, to your victim. And if he says her, we'll plead this thing out tomorrow morning. We ain't got to worry about no trial. We done, right? So I'm at lunch the next day with a judge. And I get a call. And Trey calls me and he's like, Larry, get your ass down here to the courthouse right now. Right now. Get down here. I was like, hey, man, calm down. He said, Larry, it's not her. The woman who stabbed this guy is a white woman named Tiara Cooper. Same birthday.
What?
I said, so it took y'all months to send the picture of the woman you had in jail to the victim to make sure you had the right person because you had an alias warrant just based off a name and a date of birth. And I said, I'm gonna talk to you when I get down there about your officers. And so, because at some point they should have visited the victim and said, hey, we arrested her. Is this her? Blah, blah, blah. They were literally waiting for this to go to trial to have this woman come in and for him to say that's not her.
Now, how unusual is this?
It's very usual.
Oh, so this happens a lot.
That's why I don't say justice. Because what ends up happens is police officers have a ton of cases and they just want that stuff off their desk. And so if they can make something fit, even if it's a round circle in a square peg, they'll do it and they'll say, leave it to the prosecutor and the defense attorney to figure it out. And so a lot of police officers are going to be mad about this, but you can't tell me it's not true because I was a prosecutor for a number of years. And so I know what happens down there. And a defense attorney at the same time. So I know that, hey, we make the arrest, y'all figure it out, and then we go from there. And so she gets out. And this is where it really gets screwed up. So I told you they had you under an alias. All they had was a name and a date of birth. Well, what they ended up doing was, when they arrested her, they inputted all of her tattoos and all of her information into the warrant. So now the warrant is still active, but now the warrant is all about her. And so they keep picking her up. They pick her sister up basically because they look alike, saying, nah, you're lying. It's really you. You don't have a sister, or you're really this person that we want. And so now I'm going back and forth. And I couldn't at first really figure it out. And so finally, I just said, hey man, let me go down here and let me see this warrant. And I took a look at the warrant, and that's when I found out that all of that information was her. So I ended up having her have to go to the jail and meet with the sheriff's department so that they can view her and remove all her identifying information from the warrant. And it shouldn't have took all that. It shouldn't have took all that. I mean, the only benefit that came from that is we were able to take care of both cases at the same time. But, I think what really gripped me and hurt me the most was, I think you had just had your baby. I mean, like, she had just had her baby, and it was part of that, during that bonding stage, that she was in jail.
That's crazy. How does the courts rectify something like that? I mean, that's time that you can't get back. You railroaded somebody for months.
They don't.
So there's no payoff. There's no, sometimes you hear that some, like the Central Park 5, they got paid for the misfortune. Did you get anything back from this?
Did anybody even take any accountability?
No.
Let's start there.
No, I was going to say that. Like, there was zero accountability. I went on a run for a little bit. So when I got out one of those times, they was like, hey, turn yourself into the sheriff's office and we'll figure it, match it all up. But I'm on the run now because I'm just like taking care of my baby, trying to figure things out. I don't know what to do. I can't really trust the system. I can't trust the system. I can't trust.
And what does being on the run look like for a single mother?
Ooh. It looks like struggle. It looks like struggle. It looks like me going to my different family members' houses every other day with a disabled child, with a child on a feeding tube, needing formula, needing all the things that I already needed. I was already in poverty. My conditions were already poor because I committed a forgery account. So now everything is enhanced and I'm on the run with it. Because now I'm scared of a whole nother type of case. Last time I went in there, they was trying to throw time on me. You know what I'm saying? And for me, mentally, I was not well. I was already not well. And, I think that's what's being highlighted for me right now, just like my mental condition, my spiritual conditions, my physical conditions, all of those things. Financially, like you can't get a leg up because I'm on the run. I'm on the run and everything that I do. I don't know how we were surviving. I just don't know how we were surviving. And I remember even when they finally cleared everything up to a degree, the judge, when I went before her, they only dismissed the case. They didn't, it would show up on my criminal record as dismissed. And she said to me, you're lucky, because he still never came to court. Like the guy, he never came to court. So after so long,
You're fine. Good.
sorry, y'all. I'm on do not disturb, but it's still ringing. Yeah. So after so long, the judge has to do something with the case. Now it's years. We years in because it was broken. The time was broken up. The time was broken up. I go on the run. They'll pick us up, pick me or my sister up again. My sister was incarcerated on Mother's Day. And Mr. Taylor came and got my sister out on Mother's Day. She was actually pregnant at the time. And he would come, like my sister literally told me to say like, he saved me. He saved me. She was going crazy. She was literally going crazy. And then, they fixed the name and information, and that's when they just started coming for me. Right. And that judge looked me in my eyes, and I wanted to advocate for myself even then, but now I'm just like, the case is getting dismissed. I'm ready to go home. But it was some things I wanted to tell her because I know she told me straight up. She said, you're lucky. Don't be out here stabbing nobody else.
Damn.
And I don't want to see you again.
Was this a black woman?
Black woman.
Wow.
Originally,
So
I had a white woman judge. She was trying to work with me because I did miss some court dates in between. So like I would go before the judge. The judge was like, we're going to release you. This final time that I remember being locked up, when everything finally got cleared up, it took time. But the judge, she straight up told me, she said, I don't want to see you again. You lucky. Like basically like you're only getting out because this guy didn't come to court to testify. And I don't want to see you again.
That's crazy. And
there was no, I'm not an exoneree. Exonerees get paid. Exonerees, they're innocent. And they're looked at and viewed as innocent. I was still being criminalized even then. It's like if you are guilty of one thing, you automatically are guilty of everything. Like there's no nuance. They don't look at like the complexities of anything. If you were guilty for forgery, you're guilty for this. If the warrants say that you had tattoos and you look like this, then it's you. And it was simple as that.
You were judged in the harshest of ways. That is crazy. So just because of how you look, they literally put that on you. What lesson did that teach you just in general about the court system?
It told me that the court system was not serving justice. It showed me and taught me that there was racial discrimination beyond policing, but within the criminal courts, within the institution itself. Like the place that you think, like of all places, the courts. You know, I had a reverence for courts to a degree. Like I know when I get there, I'll be able to explain myself. This is what's gonna happen. And when that didn't happen, you know, it opened my eyes to the realities of the criminal legal system. And it has a huge part to do with who I am today and how I became a criminal justice organizer, how I became a leader, and where I began to the more I sat inside, I listened to a lot of folks' stories. And there were some people who were actually guilty, you know what I'm saying? And they're telling me their stories, but a lot of it was connected to poverty. A lot of it was connected to mental health. You just start humanizing crimes and how people get to these specific places. And I think my mom was already like commuting these things in that way. And I knew like, dang, our communities are being set up to fail. Therefore, our people fail. I began to realize it was less about me and more about a system and more about like a power. People in power who were making decisions about our lives without us being at the table. And I remembered then that I wanted to do something. Now, what that was, I did not know. And I got into community organizing because of that experience, because of that specific experience. Because I knew there had to be more people like me on the inside. There has to be more people who are innocent, who are being treated guilty. Because we taught that you're innocent until proven guilty, but you're guilty until you're proven innocent. And that was the reality. That's what I experienced. That's what I know. And that's what I saw. And so from then on, like, you know, I feel like I leaned into my ancestors. I feel like they started to guide me. And I'm as an organizer, I come from a lineage of organizers. My mom was organizer, but around the AIDS epidemic. But I'm also thinking of like Harriet Tubman, people who created underground railroads who used what they had to make sure that their needs was met. And so for me, I knew it was time to do something with my life. And I knew that it was connected to weakening the carceral state, especially at a county level. Because when people think about prisons, especially in that period, they would always think of men. Right. And nobody was thinking about mothers. Nobody was thinking about single mothers. Nobody was thinking about women in incarceration at that specific time.
We don't really get to see a eye level. There's not many movies made on that. You know, Orange is the New Black
might be
the closest thing to where it was like, oh, okay.
Women's incarceration.
Right. But you know what, Jeff, to that point, Straw just came out.
Straw. That's a very good.
Straw just came out. My wife and I were watching it on a train from New York to Philly.
Right.
And so, you know, all of a sudden it was a dust storm in the train and my eyes started watering up.
Yeah.
And I literally thought about Miss Cooper.
Right.
And her sister, because I got these two beautiful sisters who are dealing with this criminal system.
Right.
That is prosecuting them and for being Black and by a crime that was committed by somebody who was white.
Right.
And to your point, as far as monetary, until you're convicted, and like she said before, the bill is for exoneration, and government immunity stops police officers or governmental agencies from being sued for things like this, because in the eyes of the law, it's just par for the course. You know, it's collateral damage. Right. So, you know, that phrase was coined for a reason. And so Ms. Cooper being in jail off and on for a number of months, that's just collateral damage until we can get to the real crime. Or that's just one circumstance. But we did this on 3 other times and we got the actual assailant. And so that's part of the problem. You know, the founders actually said that it is better for a guilty man to go free. No, for 1,000 guilty men to go free than one innocent man be incarcerated. And we forgot that part of why jails and the legal system is set up. You know, we've made it now for profit. You know, state of Louisiana, I talked about it before.
Yeah.
They didn't want to release men and women who sold marijuana and it was decriminalized because they would have lost half their workforce. And it would have cost the state of Louisiana millions of dollars. And so, you know, going through what she went through, like I said before, reminded me of Straw. And I'm going to exit because I really want her to tell you guys about what she's doing now and how proud I am of her. And it was so wonderful to reconnect with her. And, you know, she walked up to me at the park and she was like, "Do you remember me?" And she said her name and I looked and I was like, "Oh, Jesus." And like a flood of emotions. And it was just like, "Girl, I was just thinking about you. I just saw this movie about this Black woman being prosecuted and all the hardship she was going through. And it just reminded me of my case with you." And so tell the people what you're doing.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I Googled it and I see, is this, you won 2025 Outstanding Texas Award?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
How does that feel that's the thing that pops up now when you Google your name? Like that's the first thing I see is positive, NCAA, CP, this award. That criminal background doesn't pop up. This is what I see when I Google your name.
You know, it feels quite surreal. I mean, I've been doing the work for almost 10 years, but it still feels surreal. When I was in Austin on the House floor receiving that specific award, Outstanding Texan of the Year, it felt like I had, you know, had outran every system of oppression that had came up against me. It felt like, you know, this moment of triumph, but it also just felt like there's so much more to do. There's so much more to do. I also have a TED Talk named Your Mugshot Moment where I speak to, like, you know, overcoming, like, I couldn't get jobs for a long time. I couldn't do anything with my life for a long time. And so I turned into criminal justice organizing, and I began to really advocate for myself and people like myself. We've been able to liberate thousands of people from the county jail. I've been able to liberate people from death row who are, you know, on death row for crimes they potentially may or may not did not commit. But really understanding that, you know, the system is deeply flawed, and the fact that we can even execute one individual who might be innocent means we shouldn't be using it at all. I understand how flawed the system is. And with understanding that, it's propelled me to really use not only my voice, but my skills to work on policies and initiatives that set the captives free. So when I see those titles, it means that I'm in my mission. It means that I'm living within my mandate. And, you know, God had to give me a story. I feel like he gave me a story. I wasn't, you know, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I had ideas, but I didn't know he was going to make a leader out of me. I didn't know he was going to create a revolution. I didn't know that he was going to use my voice to really relate to many other individuals. And now I go before legislators. I got accustomed to speaking to lawyers on my own, and now I speak to lawyers in a whole nother manner. We're negotiating around policies. We're negotiating around laws. We're negotiating around certain cases and clemency processes. And I wouldn't know any of that without being on the inside. So now it's like an inside-outside approach. And a lot of folks come at the system like from my realm and my sphere. They are, you know, folks who have like degrees within legal. They, you know, come at it really from this academic stance. And for me, I come with lived experience. And it's like, I know what I'm talking about. And I create space for more individuals who have been directly impacted, who might have done harm, who might have been harmed, and now they're given permission to take up space and have a hand in their own liberation and liberation of their communities.
And that's why I asked you in the beginning of what exactly where you were from, because there are certain people that, although they may look like us, they don't understand what we've been through, and they look at us and they judge us like our white counterparts would judge us because they weren't raised in the environment that we were raised in. They haven't seen some of the things that we've seen, but just because the environment we were raised in, that doesn't mean we don't have value or we don't have something to offer. If you could, can you just share with us a story of a person that that you helped on your journey that kind of you felt like, man, this is what I've been through?
Ooh, so many. But one, like I said, I am a product of my environment, and I want to, relay that message in the sense of like, being a product of your environment doesn't mean it has to be something negative. My community represents resiliency. It represents the heartbeat. It represents culture. Like, there ain't a lot of places in Dallas where you can go and receive that. When I think about individuals, there's so many, but I really like leading into leadership development. And there was a young lady named Desiree Brown. Shout out to Desiree, who came to me right when she came home from doing a 3-year sentence at TDCJ. And Desiree was about as rough around the edges as I was, and I really saw myself inside of her. And she knew a whole lot about the state prison in a way that I didn't, because I did all my time in the county. And she knew she wanted to serve, but she didn't know how she wanted to do that. And I noticed that with a lot of formerly incarcerated people. They wanted to serve, but don't know how. They want to make some money, but don't know how. And she was about to revert. She was about to, go back to her old ways, or whatever that looked like. And I was able to create an opportunity for her. I've been able to train her on organizing and leadership. Desiree now is organizing for an organization in California, Oakland, California. She's a lead organizer. She's leading some housing, equity type campaigns. And just to see her grow as an individual, to really pour into her. I mean, like I said, it did some financial, you got to give people some opportunities to make some money so that it's not recidivism. You don't want people to go back into the system or go back into their old ways. And that is hard, but I knew the way because I had already figured it out for myself. And that's a part of the journey too, is it took a longer time for me because I didn't have anybody steering me in the right direction. I didn't have nobody telling me how to get housing with a criminal record, how to get a job with a criminal record, what is organized. And I had to discover these things on my own, just at the Texas workforce, getting my paper signed, going off like, you ain't gonna hire me. I'm formerly incarcerated. Just go on and give me my, sign off on my paperwork. And one guy, he came, he said, do you know how to read a script? David Villalobos with the Texas Organizing Project. And I read a script and I started off doing electoral campaigns. That one was for Hillary Clinton. There was a DA race that I was a part of, and I really got really great at running field campaigns. Even for our now mayor, I ran his field campaign. Not my proudest moment, but it was where I did skill build, and I knew that I was really great at talking to people, and I couldn't even vote at that time. And I would tell people, vote for me, because I lost my right to vote. I lost my privilege to vote. And that's how I got started. I got started with electoral politics, and then from there I was like, I don't really like politics for real. I'm good at it. I'm good at mobilizing. I'm good at activating folks, but I want to lean into the issues. And it was then when I started to work on initiatives like, where do I begin? I mean, the death penalty, we did some state jail type advocacy around money bail, cash bail, just a series of campaigns from there. I mean, from national, local to federal. We were doing all type of initiatives, and Desiree was able to kind of follow me, like get in the car, roll with me, shadow me. Learn how to organize, learn how to galvanize people, learn how to tell a story, learn how to tell your story. And, I'm really proud of her. It's so many other folks that I'm proud of. Lorenzo, he one of my more newer folks. And, he came home, 6 months ago, and same process as Desiree. It's been many folks who have come to me for resources, for help, but also like leadership development. And they actually want to learn the art of organizing and how to build a better community and better policies.
I'm curious, right, with the knowledge that you've gained just from what you've been through, how would you help somebody that was in your exact same position today?
Ooh, that is loaded. For one, I would make no assumptions. I was prejudged. I was prejudged in a whole lot of ways. So for one, I would listen. I would listen to that individual. I would really do a great job of building networks around that individual, not beyond the carceral system. Like I said, mental health was huge. My mental was deteriorating. I would make sure, they family good, because I just feel like it was so many, like it was a web.
Right.
It was like, what do you call it? It's like an effect, like when the cards is falling down, one thing after the other. The domino effect, not the cards. The domino effect. And so I would try to build networks around that individual, walk that case out with them, because what's also important is when you on the inside, like now I know a little bit about the legal jargon and legal language. When you on the inside, you don't know half of what the judge is talking about, the attorney talking about.
Right.
You don't know that. So you need somebody on the outside, someone who's relatable to actually talk to you about what's happening and what's going on. And lastly, I would give the county hell, I would give the judge hell, and whoever else we need to give hell, and we would organize our asses off. And I mean, if that looks like having court watch and making sure that judges, we elect DAs, making sure they doing their jobs, making sure that if we need to bring pastors, if we need to bring your leaders, if we need to bring your folks into your courtroom so they can see how you are running this thing, whatever it takes. If somebody was going through what I went through, I would do whatever it took to ensure that they got home and that they were well resourced when they got there.
Have you ever had a chance to sit in front of the judge who told you were lucky?
What's crazy is I have not. And I actually heard that she was at an event I was just recently at. And I need to go check in.
Have you had a run-in with anybody that had to do anything to do with your case where you could look at them face to face now and say, look at what I've become. Like, look at me now. There you go.
Larry, Anton, anytime I see Anton, he's just like, I'm just so proud of you. And, my family.
That's fire.
My community, they knew I was always locked up. So my community always showing love.
As a person who has a family members that look just like them and have been through the situation that you've been through, do you ever think we'll get to a place where our system will not just randomly say, oh, you're that person, or go without a preconceived notion? Do you think we'll ever reach that point?
I was going to say we should already be there. Okay. With facial recognition that you can actually go through an airport without showing an ID. I think we should already be there. They should already have a system that is motivated or controlled or works with their body cameras that should be able to identify people so that they don't arrest the wrong person. But if they did that, Ms. Cooper, then they couldn't arrest people like yourself and possibly find other reasons to put cases on those individuals.
I think the system is functioning as it was designed to function.
Wow.
I don't think people, we make assumptions about what the system is and what the system is supposed to do, but the system was built. It was not built with us in mind, and if it was on on the negative side of things. Even like risk assessments tools, for example, like instead of cash bail, there's other systems like risk assessment. And those things are prejudice too, where they're like, you get points taken away if you grew up in a certain zip code. You get points taken away if you look a certain way, if you like, who determines risk? Right? And so I don't know that there is a fairer way. I don't know.
That's wild.
One of the things I want to write is now that you like I said, from what you've gathered and what you learned, right? You just said something that was profound. We elect the judges, right? But a lot of us aren't in tune enough to even know when we go to the polls who to vote for, who not to vote for. From your perspective, right? How do you judge a good judge or a good politician? Like, what should we be looking for? Like, it's so hard for us to trust anybody. You know, our trust with the government is bad. So when we're looking at all these politics, we just look at them like they're all crooked. So what do you say to say, okay, now this is somebody, okay, I can put my trust in? Like, what do you do?
This is hilarious because at the picnic that I was just at, there were judges trying to get their name on the ballot. And I'm like, what's your platform about? One thing is just ask. Like I said, a lot of the functions are by design. A lot of these things are hidden and out of sight, out of mind for a reason. People don't want you to know what their report card really looking like. Because if you really get up on some of these judges, they not who you think they are. But on the inside, we know our judges. And inside, if you get a judge name on your paperwork, I mean, everybody is an attorney on the inside. We all think we're attorneys. But you got folks that's gonna say, oh, judge such and such, they gonna hang you. This da-da-da-da-da, they gonna. So I think formerly incarcerated people, we got some great discernment around like the characters that need to be serving as judges. And I think for me, what I look for is a few things. For one, like I said, your platform. What is your platform built around? Are you still in the old Texas era, tough on crime? Do you understand nuances? Are you allowing alternative programmatics to be, inserted into your into your courts? Are you allowing like organizations such as In Defense of Black Lives, Urban Specialists, these different organizations that kind of have diversion programs? Are you extremely into more of the profit side of things? Looking at their record, how many folk are they just sending people consistently to programs without listening to their stories? Are they what dots are being connected? So I don't do a lot of court watching. I do a lot of court observations, especially around capital trials. But we go in, we sit, we have a rubric, a scale where we measuring the success. You know what I'm saying? And I think the community has to get more involved in knowing that hey, we elect these people. We got they work for us essentially. They work for us.
I think for us, just outside looking in, when you're not in tune for real, how we find out is really the influencers. You know what I mean? And that's kind of sad, but that's just the reality of a lot of people who just living their life day to day. But that's
I found out nobody really wants to get involved until it's their family member who's
that's a fact.
that is affecting. Because it's all kind of out of sight, out of mind. Even right now with the missiles going on and everybody, but it's until it's hitting your doorstep, you don't even feel like you want to get involved.
But I don't blame the people. The people are tired. Yeah. The people are struggling. The people got a foot on their, the men got their foot on all our necks in some way or another. So it's easy to turn a blind eye. It's easier to focus on you and your family, your household, your roof. But we got to get back into each other's business. We got to get back to mutuality. We got to get back to looking out for each other. That's what community is about. And, I'm also not the person that's going to tell you voting is going to change the world. The voting can change and materialize a few different conditions. It is one way that we can shift those things. But I would always commend people to vote and show up to court, vote and be at the rallies, the protests, vote and run for an elected position. It's so many different things that we can do beyond voting. And I think people try to wrap everything up in the vote when it's no, because that sends the false messages. Because then you'll have people nah, we voted and nothing changed, nothing happened. And it's okay, how do we set boundaries and make these things realistic? So you'll never hear me say, oh, voting, would have saved me from being incarcerated. Right. That's a false. But vote, and we need you all in these courtrooms. People need support when when I was in there, especially when you come into court from the inside versus the outside, you see the difference. Because for instance, if I'm out on bond and I come to court, I get to comb my hair, I get to put on a cute dress. I get to look more more humane, right. And then when you coming in from the outside, your hair barely combed, you got on the suit, you look like you might be up to something.
Right.
And it's even just being able to experience that, show me how differently I would be spoken to and treated when I was coming in one way versus the other. And now when there are community members of ours, we'll flood a court with some pastors, with some preachers, with some leaders who saying we are like here not only in support of this individual, but we want to create wraparound services for them. If you release them, we will do wellness checks with them, meaning that we'll call, make sure they're making their court dates. If there has ever been a time now, like I participate in multiple bailouts, we'll go bail some folks out if need be, but we do whatever we got to do to free our people.
Amen.
Resources, right, for family members who might be going through this, that might have loved ones that are going through your scenario. Where do they lean? Where do they go? Just contact Larry.
You say, Larry said, don't call me. Don't call me all at once.
There are phenomenal community partners that are doing phenomenal work. But as y'all know, there has been attacks on nonprofits. There has been attacks on all types of initiatives. Like our resources are being dwindled out. I don't know if anybody familiar with the Cop City fight, where folks are actually getting racketeering charges for bonding people out, for
What? Hold on.
Organized crime. They're considering this now and looking at Atlanta, Cop City, Cop Nation, where church groups are quite literally losing their tax status, and they're also receiving racketeering charges, organized crime charges.
I've never heard of
for getting people out of jails and prisons.
This
Really?
is sick. So when they talk about systematic oppression, this has got to be what they be talking about.
I've never heard of that.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
See, they're putting a RICO on anything now. It's like that's not even a.
It's organized crime. Yeah.
Wow.
Project 2025 is real, y'all.
Wow.
What do we need to be voting for? Like, is there something that we need?
Or are we already doomed? Is it just over with?
Is there a light at the end of this tunnel?
We just gotta push through.
I can't even bail my man's out now. Be here with the RICO.
Listen, we come from a resilient people. We got to look to one another. Also, we got to reimagine a world that we want to live in and lean into that. Like, we are a creative people.
Amen to that.
So a lot of the answers live within us if we come together.
With that being said, we want to thank you so much for coming and sitting down with us and telling us your story. It was amazing. Just give the people who want to help get involved. How can they help? How can they get involved? How do they need to get in contact with you? What do people need to be doing? What do we need to be doing?
Yeah, get in contact with me personally. My name is Tiara Cooper. You can follow me on socials, first name, last name. I'm also the director of In Defense of Black Lives, but these political views are my own. I also work for a law firm, so I can't really get into the details, weeds on that, but these are all my own personal views. Get connected to a local organization. Even if you're not in Dallas, get connected to an organization that is doing the work on the ground with people who look like myself or might look like you, because all of us know someone. If you yourself have not been incarcerated, everybody knows someone in their family who has been incarcerated. So this is our issue, and nobody ain't coming to save us.
Gotta save ourselves. Man, we want to thank you so much again just for coming to sit down with us. You know, Tiara, you are a lot of things, but now, Tiara Cooper, you are a real life street star.
Oh, let's go.
Hey!
Real life. If that shit ain't real life,
It ain't real life. Just ain't real.
Real life street stars. Know what time